Committee on Homeland Security Subcommittee on Counterterrorism, Law Enforcement, and Intelligence will come to order. The purpose of this hearing is to receive testimony from expert witnesses from the national security realm that will inform our understanding of anomalous health incidents, or more commonly known as Havana syndrome. I now recognize myself for an opening statement. Good afternoon and welcome to the Subcommittee on Counterterrorism, Law Enforcement, and Intelligence. We're holding this important hearing to examine anomalous health incidents, otherwise known as AHIs or Havana syndrome, and discuss the potential targeting of U.S. government officials and their families in the homeland and elsewhere. Although this issue has recently gained significant media attention, the issues surrounding anomalous health incidents or Havana syndrome are not new. Dating back to 2014, a number of U.S. diplomatic, military, and intelligence officials and their families have reported major medical symptoms that have affected their auditory and sensory motor skills. These issues became public in late 2016 after a group of Canadian diplomats and U.S. government employees and their families assigned to the U.S. Embassy in Havana, Cuba, began experiencing similar symptoms. After the reported incidents in Havana, government officials and their families began reporting similar symptoms in the People's Republic of China, Vietnam, Germany, Austria, Serbia, Australia, Taiwan, Colombia, as well as here in the United States. Multiple agencies within the intelligence community have conducted assessments in an attempt to identify the factors that cause AHIs, or who, if anyone, is responsible for these incidents. Unfortunately, none of these studies could conclusively identify the causes of these incidents. However, the State Department commissioned a study through the National Academies of Science, Engineering, and Medicine that found, and I quote, unusual presentation of acute, directional, or location-specific early phase signs, symptoms, and observations reported by Department of State employees to be consistent with the effects of directed pulsed radiofrequency energy. Many of the chronic, non-specific symptoms are also consistent with known radiofrequency effects, such as dizziness, headache, fatigue, nausea, anxiety, cognitive deficits, and memory loss, end quote. Since the National Academy's findings, generally, the IC, the intelligence community, has stood by their initial findings and maintains that the origins of these symptoms are still unknown and not likely to be derived from the actions of a foreign adversary. Today, we hope to gain a better understanding of anomalous health incidents to address this pressing issue. And it's paramount that we acknowledge the gravity of this situation. And I think when you really look at what we're doing today, it's to have a transparent discussion, to talk to our three expert witnesses, to hear in a manner consistent with what they went through, what the facts are. And as Congress, the role on oversight is so important. That's what we're doing today. And so I'm proud that this is a bipartisan effort. And I now recognize the ranking member, the gentleman from California, Mr. Correa, for his opening statement.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I agree with you. This is an important issue, deals with the health and welfare of our government officials as well as others. Thank you again, Mr. Pfluger, and good afternoon to all of you. Welcome to witnesses today. I'm here today filling in for our ranking member, Mr. Magaziner, who I'm happy to say he and Julia welcomed their daughter, baby daughter, to their family just, I think, a day or so ago. So Magaziner, Mr. Magaziner, enjoy your time with your beautiful family. Today's hearing has been called to examine the anomalous health incidents affecting a range of U.S. national security personnel, including intelligence officials, members of our armed forces, and diplomats. Sometimes referred as Havana syndrome, anomalous health incidents were first reported, as the chairman suggested, back in 2014 by U.S. personnel assigned to our embassy in Havana. Many have described the symptoms that were chronic and debilitating. Sadly, these incidents have not been isolated to Havana. U.S. personnel have reported such incidents as in Hanoi, Vienna, London, Moscow, as well as here in the United States, in Washington, D.C., Virginia, and Pennsylvania. There have been several investigations into the cause of these incidents, including a study by the National Academy of Sciences, Engineering, and Medicine, several studies by Jason, an independent group of expert scientists, a brain imaging study by the University of Pennsylvania, as well as others, and that list is not exhaustive. Today, we have the privilege of hearing from retired Lieutenant Colonel Greg Edgren among our witnesses who ran the Pentagon's investigation into these situations. We also understand the Intelligence and Foreign Service Affairs Committees have been engaged in an intensive bipartisan oversight of these anomalous health incidences for a while now. And last year, the intelligence community completed a coordinated assessment regarding the causes of these incidents and found no evidence of adversarial activity. I know the lack of a finding in these cases after nearly 8 years of incidences is a source of frustration for the victims and frankly for all of us as well. And I am pleased that recently the Biden administration came out with a statement that they will continue to conduct comprehensive examinations of these effects and their possible causes. The Director of National Intelligence, Ms. Arvel Haynes, reiterated these comments in her testimony to the Senate last week, stating that the intelligence community is continuing its investigations into what happened in these situations. This committee, I should say, is dedicated to working with our partners, the administration, and other relevant congressional committees to ensure that such examinations, investigations proceed, and that we take care of our people. Let me repeat, we will continue to take care of those afflicted by the Havana syndrome, and we'll continue to look for sources and causes. And Mr. Chairman, I want to ask also unanimous consent that Mr. Eric Swalwell be permitted to sit in this committee and ask questions of today's witnesses.
Without objection, so ordered.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and with that, I yield.
I think the ranking member and other members of the subcommittee are reminded that opening statements may be submitted for the record. We're pleased to have a distinguished panel of witnesses before us today on this very important topic. I ask that our witnesses please rise. Raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you will give before the Committee on Homeland Security of the United States House of Representatives will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Thank you. And let the record reflect that the witnesses have answered in the affirmative. I'd now like to formally introduce our witnesses. Mr. Gregory Edgren is a retired Army Lieutenant Colonel and a former U.S. government official. He led the investigation efforts for the Defense Intelligence Agency into the causes of AHIs and who, if anyone, was responsible for causing these incidents. Mr. Edgren's career has covered 8 countries and 3 U.S. embassies. He now serves as the CEO of Advanced Echelon LLC, a company in the United States with interagency experience leading AHI efforts. Mr. Christo Grozev is an award-winning journalist and the lead investigator for The Insider. He is also a member of Bellingcat Productions, which looks to translate Bellingcat investigations into a range of new media products. He was the lead Russia researcher at Bellingcat until February of 2023. His investigations into the identity of the suspects in the 2018 Novichok poisonings in the United Kingdom earned him and his team the European Prize for Investigative Journalism. And lastly, Mr. Mark Zaid is a Washington, D.C. based attorney who specializes in crisis management and handling administrative and litigation matters, mainly relating to national security, international law, foreign, sovereign, and diplomatic immunity, and the Freedom of Information/Privacy Acts. Mr. Zaid often represents former and current federal employees, including military officers, defense contractors, and other national security professionals and whistleblowers. Again, I thank the witnesses for being here today. I'll offer each of you an opening statement. I know you've submitted those as well, so please, if you don't mind, summarize it, and we have a timer to keep to 5 minutes so that then we'll go into the question and answer period. I now recognize Lieutenant Colonel Greg Edgren for 5 minutes on his opening statement.